Welcome to the Arthur CUSD 305 Unite 305 Community Engagement Process. The intent of this video is as a reference point for those that attended in-person sessions and need a refresher, or anyone that cannot attend due to schedule. This video, as well as all the past videos, is also available at www.unite305.com. My name is Damian Schlitt with BLDD Architects, and I'm assisting the district and the community-led team in their work to create a master plan for the facilities in Arthur CUSD 305. This video presentation is able to focus on two key items as the community has done some great work to find a consensus, getting us to this point. Tonight we're going to review the feedback from CES number 2, which was the final piece that informs our other item, the final scenarios that we're going to review. In CES number 2, work activity number 1, of the 8 tables, all 8 selected one of the 6 through 12 campus scenarios as their top solution. 6 of those groups selected scenario 5A, which was the middle school addition to Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond High School, with the other 2 selecting 5B, an entirely new 612 campus. Now, while not required, 6 of those groups did identify a second scenario. 5 of those selected the alternate to their first choice. Those that selected 5A selected 5B, 5B selected 5A, with the 6th identifying 4A, the new middle school. The focus of the selection of these secondary scenarios seemed to reflect the desire to ultimately end up with the replacement of the high school facility at the existing site. Now, one last piece of feedback was the idea to build a high school addition at the existing high school site, placing 6-8 students in the existing high school. This feedback related to the top scenarios told us 2 key things. The community had strong support to pull 6th through 8th students from the elementary buildings and put them together, leaving a pre-K 5 in each of our communities. The community was also interested in the creation of the 612 campus, and ideally that would be at the existing high school site. Now, for the second portion of the group work, to create a Phase 1 scope of work, and based on what we learned related to district finances and availability of funds, to base this around the assumption that Phase 1 is limited to a maximum total cost of $30 million. Now, in addition to the goals of bringing our 6-8 students together and creation of a 612 campus, there are a handful of other scopes identified as top priorities amongst the community members and the facilitating team. A new gym at Arthur Grade School. Physical needs across the district were pretty clearly supported. Also, the support for hands-on, industrial tech, vocational, and STEM at the high school. Secured entries at all of our facilities were also key items identified. And lastly, some particular items related to physical needs were upgrades to toilet rooms and general upgrades to flooring, finishes, and lighting as much as we could fit into the budget. Now, with that quick review, I'm going to move into the final scenarios. Now, before we look at our final scenarios, I wanted to quickly remind us of what we've considered to this point. In CES number 1, we introduced, and then in CES number 2, studied 7 different scenarios. Now, these range from doing nothing in the status quo, to grade center solutions, to even introducing the idea of a middle school model. CES 1 work even resulted in exploring 2 of our scenarios, the 612 campus scenarios. Now, following engagement session number 2 and the results outlined previously, we have narrowed our options to 3 612 campus scenarios. Scenario 5A does this with an addition of 6-8 addition to the current high school site. Scenario 5B was constructing a completely new 612 campus on an unknown site. The third that we refer to as Scenario 5C, which like 5A makes a major addition to the Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond High School, but in this case does so to replace the 912 spaces and allows 6-8 to use the existing high school spaces. This was in response to the feedback that had the goal of a 612 campus, but also leaving the opportunity to either immediately or in the future provide new 912 high school facilities. Now, due to the strong feedback to support a 612 campus at the existing high school site, the facilitating team decided to narrow to two scenarios. Scenario 5A, the addition of 6-8 at the high school, and 5C, the addition of new 912 spaces, moving 6-8 into those existing high school spaces. Now, for those that may not be familiar, before I begin to describe these scenarios, a little review of the full scenario layout. At the top of each scenario is its title and defining description. Next, you can see the name of each campus across the top of the columns. Regardless of grade levels served, we will refer to each site as it is currently to avoid any confusion. At the bottom of each column are some basic information related to the option: grade level alignment, existing or new square footage, those types of items. Lastly, at the very bottom is a legend. These relate to things from new construction, additions, to retirement or demolition. Now, Scenario 5A is the first of the two 612 campus scenarios. This is accomplished by adding the middle school 6-8 grades to the existing high school with a total addition of roughly 52,000 square feet. This costs $55 million and results in a functional score of 87.3 overall. Now, Scenario 5C, the new scenario looks at the creation of a 612 campus via replacement of the 912 facilities at the existing site and moving junior high students into the high school building. Now, this has a slightly higher cost of $57.7 million. While work at the 3 pre-K 5 elementary are the same, the work at the high school is slightly different. To limit the scale of the 912 addition and take advantage of the surplus existing high school area, shared use of spaces like library, media center, and band choir are located at the south end of the existing facility for easy but separate access by all students 612. Larger spaces, shown for different programs in Scenario 5A, have ability to be reconfigured and redesigned to support more general learning spaces, as well as hands-on learning spaces. So in summary, we have two scenarios that end up with 612 campus on the existing Ala High School site and pre-K 5 at the 3 elementary facilities. Again, 5A accomplishes this with new facilities for 6-8, with a total cost of approximately $55 million and an overall functional score of 87.3. 5C accomplishes this building from the other end, if you will, the upper grades, where the new addition supports 912 students, with 6-8 students taking occupancy of the existing high school building. Now, this costs roughly 5% more at $57.7 million and has a very similar performance score of 87.4. Now, for tonight's consideration, we wanted to outline how either plan could be implemented. As we learned in CES2, the district has a realistic budget capped around $30 million. This means we cannot simply complete 5A or 5C all at once. To start this consideration, we first review those Phase 1 features identified via community work in CES 1 and 2. Now, as stated, we are targeting a total project Phase 1 budget of roughly $30 million, and with an end target long-term of a 612 campus at the existing high school site and pre-K 5 at each elementary school. A strong consideration of these Phase 1 options was to support the implementation of the new grade level alignment in our progress towards that 612 campus. While all work at all buildings cannot be included, a focus on items like those listed here, from secured entries to a gym at Arthur Grade School, and upgrades to physical needs and hands-on learning areas should be prioritized. Now with that, here are Phase 1 options for each of scenarios 5A and 5C. For Scenario 5A, the support to implement Phase 1 looks like this. The major expenditure is the 6-8 addition at the high school with a cost of roughly $19 million. This, along with about $2.3 million of renovation work to update hands-on and industrial tech vocational areas, the new kitchen, the secured entry, and some site work, allows Arthur High School to support 612. In addition to this scope, we can include the secured entries at each campus and the gym at Arthur Grade School. The last scope of work is a portion of physical needs work that can occur. This really is an allowance of sorts, with between $300,000 and $1 million occurring at each building, with Arthur Grade School getting no physical needs upgrades due to the gym and secured entry work. While not graphically shown, by realigning the grades to pre-K 5 and 6-12, each elementary would also, if you will, gain space by the removal of 3 grade levels from their facilities. Now, when implementing Scenario 5C, the scope of work is a bit different. Similar to Scenario 5A, the largest cost item is the addition at the existing high school. But the addition is slightly larger, about 8,000 square feet more, and supports industrial arts in that addition as well. The renovation work at the high school includes reorganization to make media library and band choirs a more centralized shared resource. Work at the elementary schools is slightly limited, with only the secured entries at each campus and the Arthur Gym occurring. No physical needs assessment work allowance is included at any of the buildings. This budget is just over $30 million at 30.6. And again, like in Scenario 5A, while not graphically shown, by realigning those grades to pre-K 5, 6, 12, each elementary would also gain that space by removal of those 3 grid levels from each facility. Now, as introduced at our last meeting, CES number 2, these budgets have varying impacts on taxpayers. 5A, Phase 1, at $30 million, results in approximately 83-cent tax rate. That increase results in about $365 a year for a $150,000 home, roughly $1 a day. That of Scenario 5C is just slightly higher, at 85 cents, and about $374 a year for a $150,000 home, or about $31 a month. Thank you so much for your engagement and interest in the Unite 305 engagement process. I hope you found this information and all previous information helpful and informative. Now, this is the end of our engagement process, and our next public step is to make a recommendation to the Board of Education on February 16th, 2022. Please follow along to hear more about the final recommendation and to learn more about the process. Also, if you want to learn anything else about our past sessions, please visit the website www.unite305.com.